This is what my bridge looks like without the hack. Now, this is what the bridge looks like when I apply the hack. Congratulations, you have just clicked on the video that will share the most important hack. It's a bit of a secret in the movement world on how to unlock your high bridge. Let's go. When it comes to the high bridge, or the wheel pose, as they like to call it in yoga, we have three main areas of the body that need to do some work. We have the hips, they need to open. We have the T-spine, the thoracic spine, that mid-back area, that needs to be able to bend as well. And finally, we have the shoulders that need to open in flexion. So let's break it down, look at each part, and I'll show you this one thing that has really helped me to unlock my high bridge. It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips. The hips, this is where we're starting with a passive kneeling hip flexor stretch. So I'm sending the weight into the front leg. My back leg is nice and straight behind me. The toes aren't active for now. And I'm gonna tuck my pelvis under just to get that opening sensation in the back hip. It should feel like it's lengthening. You can have the hands on the knees for this and you can lean into it. 30 to 45 seconds. So the next step that you can add to this hip flexor stretch is to start to arch through the thoracic spine. So I'm leaning forward into my deepest hip flexor stretch here. I use my hands on my knee and I send my gaze back. I lift up through the chest. I switch my right glute on and I start to arch through the mid-back. If you're really tight like me, it helps to add some load and to also just start to introduce the high bridge shape with the arms involved. So taking a stick and a small weight, this is 2.5 kilos to start, maybe something up to 5 kilos could work, depending on how much flexibility and mobility you already have. I lean forward into my hip flexor stretch, and from here, arms shoulder width apart or a little wider. They're coming up into my arch, and I'm still keeping that lean into that front knee, and I'm starting to try and arch through my mid-back, opening through my shoulders, using my gaze, like so, 45 seconds. When it comes to the thoracic spine, the mid-back, I do like a little bit of a foam roll just before we start our bending, just to bring some circulation into the area and to loosen up the fascia. You can also play with a few extensions into flexion, play around with the spot, just to wake the area up and let it know we need to bend. Next up, we have our classic bridge pose from yoga, which is a nice one to prime that mid-back and also to get the glutes and hammies involved. So you'll notice that my feet are up close to my glutes, my hands palms facing down by the waist. As I inhale, I tuck the pelvis under and I lift up one vertebrae at a time into my fullest position. And as I exhale, I roll down, peeling the vertebrae down one at a time until my tailbone touches and I go again. You want to do 5 to 10 of these. Nice strong arches, gets the lower body going and also starts to get a little bit of flexy work through the spine. The other way I like to address the T-spine is with some active and passive cobras. So we can start with our palms facing under our shoulders here, and as I inhale, I curl my head up. I'm lifting up, not using my hands, getting to my highest position. Now I add the hands. And from here, I'm uncurling as slow as I possibly can until I can take the weight away from my hands, curling back down. Doing 10 of these, really making those back muscles work. I like to flex my glutes as well, just to look after the lower back. Now, if you have a really stubborn, tight T-spine like me, and also tight shoulders like me, this drill is money. So I've elevated my foam roller here. My dog managed to chew the crap out of that. So just ignore the slobber dog marks. And I've got my stick and my weight. Now you'll play around with your weight, but what we want to do is line up the shoulder blades so they're somewhere just at the bottom of the foam roller, and from here we take the stick and we extend, and this just helps add a little bit of loading to that arch. Now I can stay in this anterior pelvic tilt here, let my head fall as well, let the weight do its work, and I can also play with my hip position, so I could bring the legs in and I could tilt the hips under for a more of a posterior pelvic tilt, and actively try to open through the shoulders at the same time. And then I can go back to my anterior shape and I can play with that and just hang out here for a minute and a half, something like that. Fuck yeah. Okay, we're up to the shoulders, which are the biggest limiting factor for most people doing the high bridge or the wheel pose. So we're getting to that one thing, the secret hack that's helped me unlock my high bridge and make it possible. And it has to do with the width of your hands in the wheel pose. So this is a great exercise for the shoulders, but it also demonstrates where most people have limitations in shoulder flexion, okay? So if my hands are shoulder width apart, where most people try to start their bridge pose with, you'll notice that I get to about here and I'm stuck. But if I take my grip out nice and wide, look what happens. I've got much more shoulder flexion range. I can get them up and over. I elevate through this top position and I can get much more range out of my shoulders. So we're doing 10 of these dislocates now, and what you want to do is find a width that is sticky but not impossible. And this will reveal a lot about your shoulders. If you get stuck, go wider and loosen up the pec and the rotator cuff muscles. And now let's take a look at how that translates to the floor. So what tends to happen to people when they start their bridge pose is they have a very narrow grip of their hands just beside their head. The problem with this narrow grip is, just like our stick, it's really hard to extend the elbows and to find full shoulder flexion. So the hack that has helped me to unlock my high bridge or my wheel pose is the hand positions, widening my grip. Instead of here, I want it to be out here. So you can see there's a big difference. Now let's just take a look at my narrow grip, best effort at my high bridge with the really narrow hands just beside my head. I'm warmed up now. That's as far as I can get. Now, if I take the hands nice and wide, just to the edges of my mat, let's see what happens here. So much further, and then I can start to make my adjustments, send my head and chest back towards the hands, and we have a much, much higher bridge or wheel pose. You've made it this far into the video, so as a little reward, bonus hacks. We haven't touched on internal or external rotation of the shoulders, but generally, if you start to internally rotate the hands like this, you can also get a little more shoulder flexion. So if you're limited in your wrist extension, like making that shape is really hard for you, you get to like there, then what you can do is you can turn the hands inward slightly to create some more space. And you start to get this kind of effect. Nice wide grip again, turning the fingers in slightly. You can start with the elbows bent, and then we can extend and find our shape. Another hack is what you do with the feet. So by jamming the feet up against the wall or something solid, it gives us the push so we can get the head and chest back towards the hands to really open up through that T-spine and the shoulders. Let's demonstrate. Nice wide hands, my feet are jammed up against the wall, extend, up we go, and now I can push my legs into the wall and send my head and chest back towards my hands. Another hidden culprit when trying to open the shoulders can be really tight lats. So just a simple lat stretch, something like this, where you're playing around with the weight of your own body on a pole, is really great just for stretching and opening the lat. So I like to even look under the armpit here, play around using my own body weight, hang out here for a minute each side just to lengthen out through the latimus, the lats. Another option is to elevate the feet. So using a box, or here I've just got my yoga bricks. I can wedge my feet up onto there, get my hands where I want them in my best position, bridge on up and lift from there. Then you can get a little bit more range more easily because of that height. While I really love the elevation drill for really getting in there, it can be hard for people to have the upper body strength to push themselves up once their feet are elevated. So you have to play around with the height. Even having some stairs or something that you can build out of your blocks to walk the feet up could work as well. Well, that's about it for me. That's about all I have for you today. If you got something out of this video, please smash the thumbs up button, give me a like, drop me comments below. Let me know if you enjoy these videos. If you'd like more of this sort of content, please subscribe. It helps me grow the channel. It helps encourage me to keep going and to keep sharing what I'm learning with you. I'll see you in the next video.